Let me
Yeah, it says
see.
this meeting is being live streamed, it says at the top.
Yeah, now trying
So how do
to
they find it? They go to YouTube and then they can
well
find the Three Whiskey Happy Hour
well we've got
account.
See, posts it, the link.
yeah, and it's up and we are going and we have like a
Oh
couple
yeah.
hundred subscribers and then I announced it today. So we probably have people. So Lucretia, with that, over to you and we can get started.
All right, in three, two. Welcome everyone to the Three Whiskey Happy Hour. It's a really great Three Whiskey Happy Hour because we are all home, not in each other's home, in our own homes, but it's 8 o'clock p.m. and we're all drinking whiskey. We
Yeah, like we're
know when we
supposed
have
to. Right.
right, exactly. And I am drinking a 15-year-old Macallan. It's very nice.
That's pretty
Um,
young. That's pretty young for you,
It
isn't it?
is,
You
but you know, since I got fired from all of my different jobs, I can't really afford the 18-year-old anymore.
oh,
So, you know,
What?
it's
What are
kind
you
of
talking
poverty
about?
stuff. What do you
Let's
mean?
start a GoFundMe page for Lucretia
GoFundMe
so she
for
can get
Lucretius.
three so she can buy 3 more years and make it an 18-year-old.
no, I if Lucretia does an online page that starts with "go" and an F on it, it's going to be a different. Never mind.
Something different. I
Oh
try
yeah,
to
my
Right.
watch my
browser doesn't let
language.
me see Lucretia's web pages for that reason.
Uh,
What are you drinking, John?
I've got wild turkey,
Oh,
rare breed rye.
rye.
yeah.
Yes, and as I
And
always do, I'm gonna pour it. I don't know if you
So we
can
can
hear it.
hear it.
Usually you can.
it's always fun. While you're doing
You can
that,
hear it from the Willet bottle, always. You know,
I'm
the
Yeah,
big
I'm
that's
crazy
true. When
one.
I do the Willet bottle, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh
just doing
God,
my.
Steve.
I know I'm doing my old standby because I haven't had time to go to a. I may get to a good liquor store tomorrow in Paso
You know, you're
Robles
right. I
for, but
should just throw this out and drink the Willet. This is how I have it. I have it there like this.
Why do you have a hat on it? Why
Because
isn't
it's a
it a
cow
bear?
hat.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
All
like
right.
the
Well,
official cow hat.
I hope that any listeners live out there are joining us in tipping a toast to all of you.
yep.
Um, Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching this later on or listening later on, thank you again for joining us. We very much appreciate the support. So first, we're going to, including speaking of
Mm.
support, we're
Yeah.
going to start by asking Steve why it is that dogs have a thing for his books.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't laugh. Yeah, a toast tonight
A toast. What's the dog's
to
name again?
Lily. And
Lily.
and so we have a longtime reader and listener who I've never met named Tom Steggy. I'm not even sure where he lives, but about 5 years ago, he sent me photos of his dog Lily. You know how authors like to say, "My book was so good, people just ate it up." Well, his dog literally ate my book. And hold on a second here if I can find the pictures he sent me. There we go. For people who are watching the live stream, there is Lily looking at my book, and there on the right side is
Good
Lily after
girl.
after the book had been
Oh,
thoroughly masticated. And
good
Did he
girl.
uh,
only eat the books that talked about Strauss too long?
So, John, I had this lovely first edition of the Constitution produced in like 1860. That was
Wow,
the
cool.
publication date on it, and it was the Constitution and some of the other founding documents, and it was this lovely old book, and it was about eye level on one of my bookshelves, and one of my dogs. My German shepherds, not little rat dogs. I'm so incensed at you about that. Oh my God. Anyway, actually got up somehow. There must have been something in the pages of the book. I mean, it was, 150 years old at least, and chewed it to smithereens. Not even like half of
Oh,
it. That Lily only ate half of Steve's book. This one was just destroyed, and I don't
right.
know what it was, but I guess it's because dogs like good books, Steve.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but I'm not sure I got to the. It's not really a punchline, but the reason it's timely this week is that this week Lily came to her last days, and so we drink to Lily, who's obviously has good taste in books, and thank Tom Steggy for being a loyal reader, and also he buying a replacement copy of the book. This now suggests a new strategy. You put a milk bone or something along with every book, so that you sell every book twice to dog owners, something
I
like
I
think
will
the
that.
tell you,
dog just,
Tom,
I think, oh, good.
close your ears on this, John. My mother died when I was very, very young. I remember sitting next to my father at the funeral and kind of watching his chin quiver a little bit. But when our family dog died at 17, he bawled like a baby. That's how
Oh,
dogs affect you. So, my
I
condolences to
love
you,
dogs.
Yeah.
I
little
love
rat
dogs. I just
dogs.
don't like rat dogs.
I have German
I don't feel them to
shepherds.
be real dogs.
God. Anyway,
You know, the kind that they walk around with in Beverly Hills.
Now, finally, can I
Those
just
kind of
do
dogs.
before you start us into our lineup of serious subject, Lucretia? I cannot resist, and you shouldn't either, because you grew up in L.A. You're a Dodgers fan. We went to a Dodger game together once. One,
quite the most memorable one ever.
yeah, that's because John, I through a friend scored. I think it was like Budweiser's seats on the first row, the dugout level, right behind home plate. Which are,
Wow.
oh, I
When
couldn't believe
Steve
it, right?
when Steve Yeager was
Wow.
catcher.
Yeah, see, and Lucretia spent the whole game ogling Steve Yeager's derriere. I remember that pretty. And the Dodgers got crushed
Was
by.
this like, were you guys like on a date or something?
Well,
We
we were.
were.
Oh my
You're right.
God.
It was a
Well, that's
long
why she
time
was
ago.
staring at that guy rather than you, Steve. I
Anyway,
don't blame
John.
her.
Now I don't feel so bad about humiliating you over the Phillies doing a face plant worse than a
I
Katanji
can't
Brown Jackson
believe
descent.
I can't believe they lost on a force out error in the extra innings. Oh, on a tap back to the pitcher.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
pitcher overthrew it to the wrong base and then overthrew it. Oh my God.
yeah. But you know who feels good about
That's
that today?
Philadelphia for
I
you.
know, but you know who feels good about that today besides Dodger fans? Bill Buckner. He's no longer the greatest goat of the postseason. So
Well, I don't know. That was still
Okay.
pretty bad.
yeah, I know, right?
Okay,
All right,
so
Lucretia,
does
Then
all
sorry.
that
Go.
mean that we're about to start the World Series or something?
There's one more round of playoffs.
One more round.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll try to pay some attention. I'm
I
just
mean, when the
kidding.
Japanese All-Star League team, I mean, the Dodgers are going to play probably the Brewers, I assume,
yeah, could
to
be.
get to the World
The
Series.
what?
Yeah.
Right.
The
The Milwaukee
Milwaukee Brew.
Brewers?
Yeah, they're really good
They're a
this
real
year.
team?
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Okay.
the
You don't.
best team. They had the best record in the league, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
Okay. How
right.
things
So,
change.
so, John, you know what I'm going to do next week? I'm going to do an AI animation of Steve Yeager calling the games and see if I can fool Lucretia into watching. See?
That was a long time ago. Mm.
I
Oh.
know.
I have no interest in sports figures anymore. I'd be much more excited probably about, I don't know, Thomas Sowell or, somebody who could
Hmm.
intellectually engage me. I don't
Yeah.
even know. Is
She
Steve
she
Yeager still alive?
she would get hot and bothered by the idea of Harry Jaffa doing jumping jacks or something.
No.
Hey.
Okay. It's time to change the subject.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's too funny even to
The
think
big
about.
news this week that made a lot of headlines in the right media, probably not the media that you interact with, John. Have you heard of this guy
Mm.
named Jay Jones running for Attorney General in Virginia?
Oh yeah, I heard about this. Yes. I
You
think it was actually in the
did?
Washington Post.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
That's where I read about it.
They're doing the seizing and pouncing thing. No, there's one headline, I forget which paper, Republicans seize on comments by attorney general candidate, right? It's always the reaction of Republicans. That's the media, the mainstream media coverage. Okay. Sorry,
It sounds
Lucretia.
great to
It's all
me.
right.
Seize and
What?
pounce is awesome.
Yes, yeah, but that they've got nothing else they can say about it because the guy, it really it it wasn't as if it was something that, the three of us in deep in the back of a bar somewhere, trusting each other's promise to keep everything secret, made some offhand, off-color remarks about something. This was a text message the guy sent to a Republican, and it was just vile what he said.
Yeah, I mean,
There
it's
were
not like some podcast host we know has ever said that somebody should be executed or something,
Yeah,
right? I
I
mean,
know, but that's just an offhand remark. He
okay.
meant it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And mostly because not because of anything that guy had ever done wrong, but because he held policy views different from Jay Jones. And the way that you get people to change their policies is you shoot them while they're in their mother's arms, make them watch, and so they feel pain, and then they'll change their policies. How sick do you have to be? And then not one Democrat, I take that back, John Fetterman, is the only one I know of, is willing to even tell the guy, look, somebody who has these views is not fit by character, by lack of integrity, whatever you want to say, to be the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Virginia. That's easy, in my opinion. Go ahead. I'm done
Well,
pontificating.
I mean, well, let's get back to a conversation you and I had. I'm not sure you were on this episode, John. It's a while ago now, but we had an extensive discussion of why are so many leftists, it's not all of them, but it certainly seems to be a high number, really horrible people. So, never mind the assassin of Charlie Cook. Think about I think it's probably numbers in the thousands, certainly hundreds of people on the left who declared publicly how happy they were that Charlie Kirk was shot, right? So, what can explain this? I've given my philosophical explanation because that's what I run to. There may be a psychological explanation to go with it too.
There's the bubble explanation that
Yes.
as a practical matter, which you should probably mention.
Well, that gets to the Katie Porter story, which maybe you want to hold for a moment. But
I
speaking
think
of
it's
awful
Jay
people,
Jones too. I mean, you cannot know that talking about shooting your opponent's children in the while they're in the arms of your wife to cause him pain is an inappropriate thing to say. You have to know that. And if you don't know that, you live in such a bubble that any morality has been sucked out of it, and it's the whatever it is the left thinks is important. That's all that matters.
yeah, actually, there's a question for you, John. Well, I don't know. Go ahead, John, if you have a general
Uh,
observation.
I mean, you guys don't really think that liberals are worse people in general than conservatives? Don't you
Yes,
just think being good or bad people would just be evenly distributed amongst? I mean, there's very bad conservatives too,
a few.
Well, I
who
mean,
say and think terrible things also.
I
And
think it's a little bit like men and
uh,
women, John. That there are here's the point. There are women who could kick butt against either one of you two. Whether
oh,
it would
who would
be
that be? Come on, bring them on.
there's a
Bring
few.
this ammo girl person I keep hearing about. We'll have a shootout.
She could
Come on.
definitely destroy you with her humor. I'll leave it at that. My point is that this strength. Why are we complaining about women, men and women's sports? Because the average man is much stronger, physically speaking, and has great
Yeah.
biological physical advantages over women. I say that the same phenomenon is actually, for some reason, manifest in the left versus right, that
Yeah,
most leftists
why?
are horrible people.
Why would this
Yes.
be?
Name me, name
I
me a
can't imagine
single
why that
Jay
would be.
Jones or Katie Porter or Amy Klobuchar or Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris who just treats the people around them as if they're scum.
I mean, President Trump says lots of bad things about people.
No,
But
he
people just don't
doesn't.
think he means it.
Yeah.
Not just that. It's not
Well,
just that
He does. I
does
mean,
it.
come
He
on, he
doesn't
does.
treat
That's
people
part of his
badly.
appeal. That's part of
yeah.
his appeal is that he says
He
terrible
doesn't
things
treat
about
Yeah,
people
people.
badly.
but look, John. Look, I want to hold this thread for a moment.
I find that interesting about him that he says terrible things about people, and the audience loves it. I don't quite understand why, but
I don't
Yeah.
think he's ever
I
said
mean,
that they should have to watch their
Well,
children being shot in the head while their wife is holding them so that they can feel pain.
well,
He's never said anything
and I
like
think
that, ever.
most people like working. Look, I mean, I'll just pick one thing. Is it, when you see high staff turnover, it's usually a bad sign. By the way, he used to have high staff turnover because he was a jerk. Was John McCain, of
Yep.
course.
yeah. You know who
Leftist.
else? But you know
But
who else has high staff turnover?
yeah,
Donald Trump.
well,
No, not
yeah,
really.
but that's not because he
Yeah.
fires them and they, oh, well, hold on. I want to ask you a specific question though, about getting back to Jay Jones. As a lawyer, you know, um, people who are applying to the bar, who take the exam and they apply for their bar license, they usually have to pass what is an ethics or morals and fitness
Yeah,
review.
moral fitness qualification. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you think if Jay Jones was coming out of law school, passed the bar, and was then reached that review stage, that those tweets would not raise some eyebrows at the state bar about his fitness to be granted a law license?
That's interesting. I don't think it would stop you because they would just say which I think he's saying is this is just, locker room type
No, he
humor. He
didn't
doesn't
say
really
that. He just said it
mean
was
it or
wrong. He didn't
Yeah.
Oh,
say
really? He
that.
didn't? Because I've heard people in politics say very mean things. They don't really mean they want to shoot someone or kill someone, but they use this language of warfare all the time.
Well,
In
He
like,
doubled
yeah, I
down
mean,
on it.
no,
yeah,
I'm just,
but
yeah,
I mean,
but they don't mean it. Like they don't mean it, right? Like but
well, but
I mean, people in electoral politics often talk this way. I mean, when I read it, I was like, yeah, he's a bad fellow, but there's a lot of bad people in electoral politics.
but he did double down on it. I mean, now maybe it's contested, but he did say to someone, this is what do you say, hearsay, we'd say these days, but person sticking with a story that certainly sounds in character, saying, gosh, maybe, it wouldn't be bad if a few more policemen were shot because then they'd be shooting fewer black people. The whole sort of Black Lives Matter, what's it, the George Floyd nonsense. It sounds to me like this guy's pretty out there wacko, but I mean, I'll just restate briefly what I've said
Yeah,
before.
why? Yeah, why do you guys think that liberals are worse people than conservatives? This is what I want to know.
So, well, first of all, I'll give you two data points. One's an interpretation and a data point. The interpretation is when you believe as a philosophical premise that you are on the side of history, as they never stop saying, it's that lazy progressivism that they can't
Hmm.
stand to be challenged. They think that what's the Charles Krauthammer line is that conservatives think liberals are stupid, liberals think conservatives are evil. And he was a psychiatrist, right? And I think he was onto something there. And then take I don't remember how they work, but Jonathan Haidt did, based on some really good survey work, about how conservatives actually, he has what, 5 different points on the moral compass. I forget how he puts it. And he says liberals only get 3 of them. Conservatives get all 5. And that's why Jonathan moved from pretty far left to being sort of centrist, or I'd argue even sort of center right. And he says liberals are much more narrow. Add to that the media bubble, which I think is really the subtext of the Katie Porter story. The liberals are always reinforced on college campuses, in the media, and of course amongst each other. I quoted, sorry, I'm rambling. I did quote on Substack here a week or two ago, someone writing to the ethicist at the New York Times saying, we have these new neighbors. I don't know what their politics are. We can't possibly associate with someone who has different views from ours. And the
Yeah,
New
I
York
saw
Times
that.
printed this. That's how liberals think. And that's why I think they think it's not remarkable to say something really outrageous.
So to take Krauthammer's quote, it's we think I actually think liberals are often more misguided than evil, but liberals think conservatives are evil, but you guys think liberals are evil,
Well,
right?
because they
No,
are.
You got right, right,
Yeah.
right. You
yes and
do.
no,
Yeah.
not unqualifiedly so, but I do think that what fills the empty souls in liberals when they reject nature, they reject God, they reject religion, they reject good and evil, that what fills their souls is demonic and satanic, and I think there's ample proof of that in
No, you really? You
yes.
think they're like agents of the devil?
Yeah, not. I don't think that every Democratic or liberal politician is, but certainly the push for transgenderism, the push especially amongst vulnerable populations to turn them into transgenders, that's evil. There's just no way around it. The push to mutilate children in the name of some ridiculously stupid idea that you're not the sex you were born into and pushing that on them, that's evil. That's not just bad policy or stupid decision making, it's evil. And or they wouldn't be going after the most vulnerable to make it happen. So yes, I do believe that. I don't believe every liberal is evil, certainly not. Not by a long shot. I also think that this has been a theory of mine, and I'm not going to harp on this. Steve's going to get mad at me if we don't move on. But for the longest time, John, my belief is that the extreme far left gets away with as much as they do because the average, decent suburban soccer mom, college professor, male, whatever, they really shut their eyes to the evil that is the far left. The transgenderism, the satanic worship, the worst of Antifa. I could go on and on. And I think that part of the reason why Democrats continue to be successful in the electoral arena is because so many liberals don't believe that what the far left is doing is even possible. I've had that experience with professors in my college over and over again. You give them examples and they accuse me of lying because they can't believe that anybody on their side would be so awful. And I think that's so there. I want to qualify if I agree to your characterization of me. I want you to understand what I mean when I say yes. I do think that some on the left are actually evil. So there you have it. Like Katie Porter, they just don't make a more. What I don't understand is if you are fat and ugly, why would you be mean
Now, wait a
and
minute.
nasty?
My description, okay. My description of her is that she's like a well marbled porterhouse steak, and porterhouse steak is never, that doesn't work. Okay. Sorry. I couldn't help it. But look, people have known in California for a long time that she's a pretty horrible person.
Why
And,
did they vote for her?
well, they didn't, she ran for Senate and lost to Adam Schiff. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be pretty bad to lose to Adam Schiff, even in California. And she did. But, there's one of the divorce filing claims from her ex-husband is that she dumped hot mashed potatoes on his head. And I think
Scalding.
That's it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that made me.
stuff,
I mean, if there was gravy on it, that'd be fine with me.
yeah.
So you could just wouldn't have to
Pour
bother with
mashed
fork.
potatoes on me whenever you can. Yeah.
Well,
she just-
we'll poke you with a hot corn dog, John. That's what we'll do.
But I
No,
mean,
but-
look,
but
like you
over
were
and
saying,
over.
but they're Republican politicians who are mean to their staff too. Like you mentioned, McCain.
Yeah.
Arlen
He doesn't
Specter was
count.
actually Arlen Specter was voted, I think, the worst boss on Capitol Hill at the time because he was
Yeah.
notoriously mean.
Yeah. I always used to
I
call
mean, I
him.
witnessed things on the Hill. Yeah.
I always called
It's
him
not just
Arlen Sphincter.
Democrats.
Oh, I stepped
mean,
on
it's
that
like
line.
that-
Okay. Sorry.
But I mean, it's not just. But I don't think it's
Notice they're
Democrats
both
who are just mean to their
rhinos.
staff.
Yeah, but never mind that for the moment. Look, I mean, I think there's a spectrum,
Yeah.
John. So some of the really smart left of center people we know at Berkeley, I'll use his name. I wasn't going to name names, but Dan Farber, right? He's sort of he's not a far lefty, but smart guy. He's not evil. He's interesting to
No,
talk
he's
to.
a really good
There's a
guy.
lot of give and take. So we tend to see the best of them, I think, in a place like Berkeley for the most part. The really crazy people there avoid us, of course, as we know. But when you get to the political class, some of the journalist class, I think it's a different story. And then down to the people on social media who decide to just be awful. Look, the Porter story, aside from the fact that she's an awful, horrible person, what you really saw there is her shock that the media wasn't treating this as a PR event for her. They're just
that's
used to
the
the
more interesting story,
right?
yeah.
And there've been a couple other episodes of this here in the last couple of days. Actually, the debate that you referenced, Lucretia, between Spanberger and Winsome Sears, the moderator of the debate 3 times went after Spanberger, saying, "So you're not disavowing the guy, you're not retracting your endorsement," and she'd do a word cloud, and the person would repeat it. Democrats are not used to that. I am wondering if things like the Washington Post trying to turn over a new leaf, which they're really taking serious steps finally to do. Barry Weiss arriving at CBS News.
Yeah.
I wonder if some people in the media are starting to say, gosh, you know what? We actually do have to step up our game and be a little more even-handed, even if they don't think that way, even if they don't change their bias.
And it's too
that may
late.
be happening. Too late. Right. Yes. They killed their brand.
I mean,
right.
Nobody's watching broadcast news anymore. They're all watching Fox, as far as we can tell.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I don't even think they're doing that, John. I think that people younger than us get all of their news from
clips,
social media, from
TikTok,
online
right.
sources.
Yeah.
TikTok.
Clips.
I don't think it's just social media. I do think
And YouTube live streams of podcasts.
yes,
Don't forget that
I'm
critical
amazed at-
medium.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. I still think that if you are fat and ugly, you should be nice. That's just my
Hmm.
my advice to Katie Porter. You should be a nicer person, but she seems to double down on being altogether horrible. So, moving on, we are going to discuss just for a minute because Steve says I have too many topics, but I do want to tie them all together at the end in an interesting way. But I want to quickly talk about retribution and political lawfare by Trump against his political enemies. And wonder if you guys, when I heard, God, I heard Fat Tush Tish out there.
Oh God! Oh no, boy!
You know,
I'm gonna cut you off from the
But
bar.
but Lucretia's not mean. She says this in the most loving way
I do.
Right?
to these to these
No, it's
immoral,
actually
bad
here's the
people.
problem. If you are an ugly person, then I see you as an ugly then lookism takes over. If you are a great person, I don't care how deformed you are or any of those other things. I'll think you're beautiful. So the problem with Fat Tush Tish is she's just an awful person, just like Big Fannie Willis, and all those other people. I'm sorry. It's the truth. And Katie
Okay,
Porter.
move
Okay,
along, please.
Well,
Comey got indicted, Tish got indicted, maybe what's her name from the Fed will get indicted, maybe more people will get indicted. Is this what you, my friend John, way back when you were actually you went to a conference, as I recall, and debated a liberal
Oh
who
yeah.
said that it's okay, we can do all of these things to Trump because there's no way that they're going to do it back to us. And you
hmm.
said, "Oh, yes, we are." And
Yeah,
yes,
no,
we should.
yeah. I mean, it's one. The case against Comey is going to be hard to win. We talked about that, right? That's just, it's, he says he didn't say something. Someone else says he did say something. The jury has to decide who's more credible. The Justice Department doesn't like to bring cases like that when it's a 50-50 coin flip. Letitia James is an easier case, I would think, to win because it's just a matter of you said this on your mortgage application. Is it true or not? And it was obviously not true. It wasn't her primary residence. And the delicious part of it is that it is exactly the same thing that she accused Donald Trump of doing, of, right, misrepresenting his assets on his mortgage application. So look, I would love to live in a world where there was no lawfare, but they started it, right? This is Letitia James started it. Comey tried to entrap the president himself in an obstruction of justice investigation, which he succeeded in doing. And I don't see how this can be brought to an end unless both sides are willing to retaliate. And so I don't think, I mean, I wish that these lawsuits were not necessary, but I don't see how to stop the future Letitia Grames and Alvin Bragg's and your friend Fannie Willis and Jim Comey's from ever doing this again unless they suffer at the hands of it, unfortunately.
So
Well,
you
let,
think
Again,
that
let,
I
that
mean,
that
I used this example, the special counsel. The
yeah,
special
yeah.
counsel
right.
law was used exclusively against Republicans, and it wasn't dropped by Congress until Bill Clinton suffered at the hands of Ken Starr
Yeah,
for a
they
few
said,
years.
"Oh, wait a minute," and then Linda Greenhouse, the Greenhouse effect is always called at the Times, right? Said, "Oh, you know what? Scalia was right after all in Morrison versus Olson. Who
Yeah.
knew?" Yeah.
So I have one just minor point to bring up with both of you guys. What you think about it. I read the funniest article today about Fat Tush Tish picking Abby, the lawyer, Abby Lowell,
Oh
Lowell,
yeah, Abby Lowell.
Abby Lowell,
Sure,
his
right.
Abby
lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lowell.
he's a very good
Oh
one of the
yeah.
best criminal defense
But
lawyers in the
the
country.
interesting thing was is that they outlined all of the famous Democrats that he'd taken their cases, and he's lost big on all of them. And the upshot of the article was he's such a good lawyer that his
Hmm.
reputation doesn't suffer from the fact that he's willing to take cases that he has no chance of winning, like the Hunter Biden case and so on. And I just wonder what you thought about that.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, if you're a federal criminal defense lawyer, just to get the sentence reduced or a charge dropped is a major victory because to get acquitted is,
That's what
I
they
think so. There's
said.
some statistic like the conviction rate in federal court is like is over 90%. I mean, you
Right.
just don't have a chance of winning absolutely. The best you can do is limit the damage.
Is
I
that
got
sorry,
to,
sorry, before you go on, is that
yeah.
because it takes so much to get an indictment in the first place, or what?
It's because
Why?
usually the Justice Department does not bring a case unless they think they're going to win.
Hmm.
If you have evidence, but you don't think you're not sure you're going to win, usually the prosecutors will say we're not going to bring the case. That's why it was so outrageous what Jack Smith did and the special counsel did and what Comey did is like I said before, they violated core principles of the Justice Department, bringing these made up charges, first in their time, arguments about statutes applying to the president and so on. I mean, they were the ones who violated Justice Department procedure. But I actually say, I mean, I don't know if that's actually true what the Times or people are saying about Lowell. I mean, I don't like Hunter Biden. I think he should not have been anywhere near guns, drugs, or public power. But Lowell actually got him off pretty well. I mean, the guy's not going to do much jail time for all the terrible things he did.
Because he
Right?
got a
That's
pardon.
no,
Well,
but I
there's
mean, like, but
that,
he
right. But even
had,
before
yeah, yeah,
that,
but
yeah.
he had him down to like I think very little jail time. Like he was probably gonna do like a year. I mean, and getting the pardon was also right. Lowell at work because Biden had remember previously promised he wouldn't do it.
I have a simpler theory about Lowell, which is I remember that guy from the Iran Contra hearings. He was one of
Hmm.
the chief counsels for that joint committee. That was what,
Yep,
1987. So nearly
that's
40
right.
years ago now. And I thought he was horrible. The other
Mm.
counsel was Arthur Lyman, who he goes way back to the McCarthy era. He must be dead by now. But
He was quite good. Yeah, he passed away.
yeah, but the point is, Lowell's one of the insiders. I'll bet he shows up at all the parties at Georgetown. There is that, having lived in Washington, and you'll know these names too, John. There is this small circle of people, and of course, they do sort of lean one way or the other to the parties that you go to when you have these problems. And so I think
Mm.
Lowell's at the top of the speed dial list, along with the other guy. I always said I would hire if I got in trouble in Washington, Plato Kacharis, just because of
Just
his
because you
name, right?
liked his first name.
Right.
But can I
He was
give some
Monica
advice?
Lewinsky's lawyer, but he's a
Yeah. Can
famous
I give
criminal.
some
Sure.
unsolicited advice? Is so I needed to hire a lawyer, and I would not hire a connected lawyer or anything like that.
Oh,
What I chose, I wanted the meanest son of a bitch that you could get, and so I picked Miguel Estrada
oh yeah.
who, yeah,
Right.
who's not only smart and has both argued the Supreme Court and tried cases, but he'd been screwed over by the Democrats.
Right.
Right? They held up his confirmation in the D.C. Circuit, and then there's this outrageous hearings where he got screwed over by Schumer. That's the kind of guy I want to be my criminal defense lawyer, and he
Yep.
just kicked the crap out of everybody. That's the kind of guy. You don't want someone
Yep.
who's glad handing at parties. You want someone who's pissed off.
Yeah.
Right? That's
So
the
who
best
should
kind of
Jack
defense
Smith
lawyer.
get?
If he's smart, he would call up Miguel Estrada.
Right.
We don't even
See,
need to go there.
Lucretia, that's the thing. Like, Lucretia, if you ever have more legal problems, because God, you must get so many defamation lawsuits, you should hire me. You know me. I would burn down everything to win.
I
Ah,
know. And remember, so the funniest thing is that, John has this photographic memory. If you want to ask him about some obscure case from the 1820s, he will know the name of it and all the important legal theories in it, but he won't remember what we discussed a month ago. I think that's a guy thing too. But
yeah.
here's the interesting
I
thing.
don't.
At what point Lucretia was being persecuted, brought up on charges, being threatened at her university because in a debate before the 2024 election, I had made the comment when somebody started namming insurrection. I said, well, that was a really lousy insurrection as insurrections go. I said, because nobody
Yeah.
brought any guns and they didn't accomplish anything and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that I guess was very triggering. And so, complaints were lodged with the provost and with the OIE, what's that called? The Title IX, and, just on and on. And so I mentioned it to John, and John says, oh, if they do anything, I'll take your case. I'll take your case for free. So the next opportunity I had, I said, maybe you just want to talk to my lawyer about this. John, I'm sure you've heard of him. Not a word since. In
Oh,
fact,
I love it. I didn't know this. I forgot this. This is
you
great.
forgot. But here's the even funnier thing. So they said that they were going to send general counsel, someone from the general counsel's office, to the college to give a talk on appropriate uses of academic freedom in a political setting by university employees. And it was all set up. And then John Yu's name came up as my personal attorney. And lo and behold, they didn't have time.
Oh, that's
Mm,
awesome. I love it.
yeah.
So,
Well,
so
I know
guys,
I'm talking, right? We're talking about me coming to your campus to do a lecture, so you should tell them I want to stop by and say hi to these guys.
I will
Just
do
to just to
that.
introduce. I know I want to. Let's add that to the schedule. I want to introduce myself to the general counsel down there and just let them know that you know I'm watching.
Speaking of, Steve wanted to mention this. I didn't put it on our list, but I do want to mention it quickly because just to see what you guys think about it. My university is actually one of the 9 on Trump's list.
Ah,
And my
For wait,
belief,
what list for what?
I
Okay,
will. I'm getting to it. On
okay,
Trump's list of universities that for some reason some people in the Trump administration have determined are open to the idea of, how shall we say, removing the leftist orthodoxy that has been so dominant for the last 50, 60 years in our universities. It's either because the president and the senior leadership at the universities are open to it, or perhaps the governing board, but there's a compact.
right. Yeah, I've got it right here.
Okay, you tell them, you can go from here, Steve.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, it's been in the news, and MIT, I think yesterday or today said, no, we're not for it. But the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, and it's got all these conditions in it, and it's a mixed bag of things. Just pick on one. Number two of all the different conditions, the marketplace of ideas. They want no single ideology dominant, I'm quoting here, both along political and other relevant lines. Signatories commit themselves to revising governance structures as necessary to create such an environment. So it goes on from there, and lots of pretty formal, well thought through language. And it does controvert some of
International
the
students.
yeah, limit the number of international students. Oh, limit your tuition increases. That's some of the business side of it. It's the content side that's the most, I think, important of it. And
Actually, that's because you've never been an administrator at a
well,
university,
no,
Steve.
I understand all that. I'm for all that. I mean, what's his name in Indiana? The former governor,
Mitch
Mitch Daniels.
Daniels.
Mitch
He
Daniels.
proved that you can control costs and still run a first class university. That's all very corrupt. But the bigger problem, I think, what interests us is how corrupt they are intellectually. Right, all other stuff. I mean, look, if Harvard tomorrow cut their tuition in half and got rid of administrators, we'd still be mad at it for their intellectual
Sure.
content, wouldn't we? Right. That's why that's more important.
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
good point.
I do care about all the other stuff, but that's the easy stuff. It's creating intellectual balance is the harder part. And I was, well, I'll stop there. I'm not sure what else you wanted to say. I have several observations about it, but I don't think it was picked. I don't think they picked those people, those universities, because they're indicated a willingness. I mean, MIT's already said a hard no. I think it's because they want to pick on some of them and target them. Uh,
That's not what they said. You're probably right, Steve, but they did
okay.
say that there had to be some in there had to be some uh, sense that either the leadership or the governing board
Yeah.
was
Right.
open to having these kinds of discussions in the first place.
Yeah.
That was, now maybe that was just fluff. I don't know, but what do you
I
think,
think I
John?
read that the chairman of the board of regents of the University of Texas said that he was honored that University of Texas was on the list and that he intended to
Right.
reach the agreement with the administration about it. So,
I was listening to an earlier podcast that we had done where we actually discussed when Trump first went after Harvard, and John
mhm.
kept John kept coming up with, "Aren't you guys worried that in the future, when the Democrats get back in power,
Yeah,
if and that's always a worry." But it brings me to a deeper question. I'm not sure how well this compact proposal is going to work, but how else would you ferret out the absolute orthodoxy, that is
Oh.
rampant across almost every university and almost even into the STEM fields. Not so much that they're rabid ideologues there, but they don't have a choice but to go along with it. How would you do that
Well,
otherwise?
so I mean,
Well,
so what I do think the federal government's allowed to fund the things it wants to fund. I don't think they have an obligation to, distribute money evenly to different universities. But I think the only way to beat them is what you're starting to see with these civic schools. There's one at Arizona, there's one at Texas. There will never be one in Berkeley, but
yeah,
that's going to provide competition. I've heard stories from friends of mine who are shocked that their children want to go to big state schools, who want to go to big SEC schools in particular,
right.
because they think they're going to be treated more fairly there and that they're going to have access to more, right, even, fair ideological classes and so on. Now, that may not be true, but that's what these kids in the Northeast and California all think. So I think that people are onto something with these civics programs. You start offering just alternatives and competition. It can't just be Hillsdale. That's the only competition.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
I think you're going to see students and faculty flock to these new programs. That's
well,
the only way to beat them, I think.
we should do a whole separate segment on an episode someday about some of these schools. I'll be visiting some here next semester. I don't want to get off on it now because it'll take us too far afield. I have a somewhat simpler suggestion for public universities. So look, I got curious some years ago about provost. I mean, I know what a dean is. What's a provost? And it's kind of murky, but in my sort of practical business private sector mind, a provost to my mind is the chief quality control officer of a university. All the hirings have to go through a provost, right, Lucretia? And tenure and promotion decisions,
yeah.
and a lot of curriculum stuff, including,
Yep.
I think, even course approval, the provost has a say on.
Not so much, but
Not so much. Is that okay?
At big universities, no, but program approval, program changes, etc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think that for public universities, the legislature and governors ought to say, we are going to pass a law if you have to, saying we're going to approve the selection of provosts. And here are the kind of people we want as provosts. You want provosts at these universities who say, no, sorry, gender studies, you have to shrink by half, and then another half next year or something like that. No, you cannot promote this lunatic who publishes all this crap. No, you cannot have a course in why Christopher Columbus is the greatest genocidal, whatever. Pick the politically incorrect stuff. That's what provosts ought to be doing at these universities. They could actually make real changes into the intellectual climate. And, they ought to say, what's Thomas Sowell's great line is, next time you hear a university boast about its diversity, ask how many Republicans they have in the sociology department. So without doing that, I don't think you should have a partisan test, but I do think you could say to the political science department, history department, do you have any military historians? History department, diplomatic historians. Do you have anybody who studies, American history from a traditional point of view? You don't think that works?
No, I don't. And I will tell you that I know too many military historians that are just.
Well, okay, I get that. But in political science, you could say, no, we don't want a political theorist who's all this crap. We want somebody who. Well, I'll just.
In the same way, stop for a second. On the one hand, I want to dismiss what you're saying, but then I think about the kinds of job postings that have been out there for faculty over the last few years. And you have to be, you're an English teacher who teaches critical race theory and transgender empathy studies and, yes,
provost should be saying, I'm sorry, you may not post that advertisement. Period. Or end of story, right?
Yeah, okay.
That's what. Now, look, that's sort of hardcore. But as you know, John, the new provost at Harvard is John Manning, who is not as conservative as, say, Lucretia, but who is. And he's not a wild-eyed leftist, right? I think the real subtext here is, well, I'll back up. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal a month or two ago that Harvard's been thinking about a center for some conservative thought or something like that. Or a civics program like the other places have. And everyone said, oh, that's in response to Trump. I happen to know from inside sources, Harvard was thinking about this a year ago, months before the election. I actually think that Garber, the new president, and Manning and a few other people, they know they have a problem. I actually think they have the intentions to try and fix it, but it's really hard to do. That's why you need mean SOB John Wayne style provosts. That's what we need.
You'd
You
have
don't
to
get to
change
be
the way it
provost if
happens.
you're the kind of character. Provosts are generally mealy mouth
I
balancers
know,
of
right? That's how
right
they get the
and
job,
trying to
right?
please trying to please everybody. It's just
Yeah.
very hard to have actually any real like who's actually what you think is even an academic leader
Well, you know, there,
other than the
I
president
do
of
want you to
Hillsdale.
know that the provost, long gone, who hired me as dean, invited Harvey Mansfield
yeah.
to speak at our university.
No,
So,
there's a few here and there.
yes.
Yeah. No, it's
Okay,
You
enough
become
of
a
that.
university president generally by being, sort of mealy
yes,
mouth little worm who doesn't want to actually take a strong stand on
right.
anything.
Raise money.
It's
Yeah,
just that,
the
yeah.
right. You have to have a spinal removal surgery before you can be a college president. Yeah.
So I have this great story. My friend Jesse Choper, who was a great
Oh
common
yeah.
law professor at
Right.
Berkeley, he was dean at Berkeley for 10 years. And he said, being the dean is like, hey, this goes to your, the toast we had at the beginning of the show. He said, being the dean is like being the fire hydrant at a dog convention.
yeah. And he was kind of out on the left, but a serious guy, an interesting guy, as I
And
recall.
in academics, he was conservative. Like he didn't
Oh,
believe
was
in
he?
affirmative action.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
but sadly, that's how you define what's conservative in
I
the
know.
academic world.
Right.
let me tie this
You'd
all
be a
together in a
socialist
funny
otherwise.
way and just say that so the Trump administration is going after universities because that is the bulwark of the left. They've gone after entertainment, if you think about it. By the way, Melania Trump has a documentary coming out,
Ah.
and she's a co-producer of it. It's supposedly a very big deal. They're going after the leftist under what would you call them, shadowy networks that are funding Antifa and a
Right.
lot of radical leftist causes. They're going after them a little bit untouchable style, going after the actual money behind it, and looking for violations of tax law and other things like that, among other things. They're going after Jack Smith and the people that were subjecting Trump and MAGA people to lawfare. They're going after crime in the cities, especially in now. We could say that there are cities because Trump is a racist, and there are cities that are led by blacks. That's
Portland, Oregon is the whitest city in America. It's 95% white. So you can't say that about
Really?
Portland.
Wow.
Yes,
but you
it's
can.
Stockholm. Well,
You can. It's just not true, which is pretty much the
oh,
MO, the modus operandi of the left these days. You say what you want, regardless of whether or not it's true. But I want to know, I looked up just for the fun of it. I put Civil War into Google and
mm.
got literally thousands of hits about all of these people that say we're on the brink of civil war. What do you guys think?
That's crazy.
What?
Really?
Oh, I don't think so.
Crazy. Crazy. Why are we on the brink of a civil war? That's crazy.
Well, I think we are. Well, look, we discussed this a year ago or a year and a half ago, and it
Mhm.
was all kind
It
of
was
abstract.
crazy then too.
Well, but look, I mean, I could. My thought was it could start actually. This may get misinterpreted, but it could happen from the right, where if you had a liberal administration did something really egregious, you would see, Tea Party types or whatever you'd say, surrounding federal buildings in St. Louis and Milwaukee and places like that. Now the shoe's on the other foot. I think Chicago blinked in the last 48 hours. The news out Friday is that Chicago's police are now arresting and interposing themselves between protesters and federal buildings and ICE officers and ICE operations and so forth, because there was loose talk earlier in the week from Mayor Johnson saying, I am going to order my police to protect the protesters from any National Guard troops that Trump may decide to send in. Now, that's all, I guess, in limbo. I don't keep up from hour to hour, but the point is that starts to look like a Fort Sumter moment to me. If you actually have there and some other states,
There's
you don't think so?
no serious state is going to try to secede. I mean, no state's going to actually put
Well,
up real
It doesn't
resistance
have
to
to
the
be
it does.
military. They
It
don't have
doesn't.
the resources.
It doesn't have to be secession, John. It only needs to be actual shooting violence between two units of government in our country, and then we have a
If the
crisis.
I mean, if the Chicago police would be ordered to attack the National Guard, they'd be squashed like bugs. I mean, the
Well,
military has so much more firepower than these
But
police officers, and I don't think the police officers would obey.
you're
I mean, I
you're
really
you're
don't.
assuming
well, maybe
too
not, but the fact
much.
the fact that we even have people in public office in Illinois talking this way is a moment that I don't think, John, you would have ever anticipated.
No, I mean, it was much worse in reaction to Brown in the South. I mean, that's real defiance of federal law. There
Oh,
you really had governors and trying to use the
right.
police to intercede. And
So
I
Yeah,
wouldn't have
so
said that was a
would
and I
civil
like to
war.
say at least Democrats have been consistent. They opposed Eisenhower
Right,
sending in
that's
federal
true.
troops, and now they oppose Trump.
That's
So at
true.
least they're
so
consistent.
I
You
want
are
to bring
right.
up an
You are right
interesting
about that.
dichotomy, John, for you to comment upon. Trump is claiming the power to send either to nationalize state National Guard troops or yeah, to do that, but send them elsewhere and use them to protect federal property and to ensure that the
Mhm.
operations of the federal government, all of this under the Insurrection Act, which was passed originally, I believe, in the Jefferson years in 1807, and then it was amended in
Actually, earlier, yeah.
1861, and then again in the 1950s to do exactly what you were talking about, which is to um, uh, protect desegregation against Democrats, of course,
Yeah.
Democrats. So you have the
Yes.
Insurrection Act, and what do you have on the left? People screaming the problem with the use of the Insurrection Act is posse comitatus,
Yeah. They don't
and
understand the law.
they don't understand the law.
Yeah,
I
they don't
get
understand the
that,
law.
but don't you also find a little bit of irony in the fact that the Insurrection Act in its 1861 amendments at least was designed to protect the newly freed slaves, to enforce civil rights law in the Reconstruction period in the South, and so on, and that posse comitatus was actually agreed to so that the federal government would stop using federal troops to
Yep.
protect newly freed slaves. Um,
No, I mean, I think
and
you and Steve are both right in pointing out the parallels of how Southerners pre-Civil War, Southerners after the Civil War, Southerners after Brown versus Board of Education, and now Democrats today all want to oppose the valid enforcement of federal law when they just happen to disagree with it.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I, I mean, I don't the laws. I don't think the law is even close on this one. Trump definitely has the power to deploy troops to
but
protect federal function. Actually, you don't even need, this is the interesting thing. You don't even need the Insurrection Act or any law. The president, under the Constitution, as the Supreme Court has said several times, has the power to protect federal agents, federal property, and to protect the agents when they go out and enforce the law. All these other statutes you're talking about give the president broader powers
no.
than that. But
well,
Trump's not really going he's not claimed the Insurrection Act. He's not going actually as far as he could go. I mean, he's just
He
saying the
hasn't.
modest role is to protect federal officers. The federal officers are the one who are enforcing the law, not the military.
well, isn't it amusing that Trump, in his typical genius, is making Democrats come out for states' rights and the 10th Amendment? They don't actually cite the 10th Amendment because they don't know it, but still, it's kind of funny to watch
But
them.
this is an interesting thing. The judges who have been stopping, trying to enjoin the deployment, I think they're all going to be overturned on appeal.
Yeah.
They've all been suddenly discovering the 10th Amendment right over, I don't
Right.
know what the 10th Amendment here actually provides, the right of states to prevent the enforcement of valid federal law. That's not in the 10th Amendment.
Well, what's really, I mean, another term for what's going on is the states are attempting nullification, right? It looks very much
Yeah,
like
yeah.
nullification to me.
Hmm.
And we remember what Andrew Jackson threatened South Carolina in 1829 or whatever it
I was
was,
just I was just
right?
teaching this in class. I remember he said
Right?
he was going to lead an army of
Yep.
10,000. They called up 10,000
Right.
militia to invade South Carolina. And he said he would hang the governor of South Carolina from the tallest tree he could find.
Yeah. So, Trump. All right.
Personally,
I have to say
Jackson was
that,
going to do it, and I believe he would have done it in person too.
but the nullification business. I have taken pictures over the years of those signs when you drive into Berkeley city limits saying Berkeley is a nuclear-free zone. And of course, up on the hill is the Lawrence Livermore Lab, where they develop nuclear weapons and have a working
Exactly.
nuclear reactor. But of course, it's a federal facility. But there haven't been, I don't know if there have been, maybe there have been 40, 50 years ago protests about it that, the federal government just said, that's cute. Now, go away while we do our
Yeah,
work, right? I've always,
exactly.
but this is more
Oh
serious
no,
now.
actually, the protesters don't go up there because it's up a hill, and protesters are
Ah,
all usually out of shape and don't like
Out
to
of
walk
shape
up
and
hills.
that's
fat and
true. Right,
ugly.
right,
Right.
right.
Oh, gosh.
Well, now,
Sorry.
oh, not, oh man,
Come
you're gonna,
on.
now, by the
Although, I mean,
way,
I did tell you
can
when
I,
I used to get protested on a weekly basis, there was this old guy who would protest me in one of those like electric scooters because he was so out of shape he couldn't actually walk back and forth with a sign. So he got like one of those scooters from Costco and would go back and forth.
Have you
So
seen
lame.
oh
the
yeah,
video of the protest in Portland
yeah.
of these septuagenarian, a little bit younger, some
Ah,
of them. What?
yeah. No, well, so here's the thing. Yeah, look, remember, I've spent lots of time in Portland over the years. The great
Really?
cliche
Oh, I didn't
about
know that.
well, that's where Lewis and Clark College was, and my best friend until he
Ah.
died. I was there a lot. I'd go there 2, 3 times a year, and I was there a year or two ago to speak at a black tie dinner. Anyway, the cliche about Portland is where young people go to retire. And so my joke is, all those people look like they're 70, they're actually 35, because
Okay,
that's what happens.
but they're
No, no,
out
of
of
course.
shape.
Yes,
They're
no, yeah, no, you're
white.
right. Yep, right.
They're pathetic. They're
Yeah.
cringe, and they're standing there with their little ukuleles singing these protest songs on behalf of all of the illegal immigrants. Not one single person in the entire crowd had a tan as good as mine. Never mind, were any of them Hispanic or black or anything else. They were all lily white, liberal. What are they called? They call them, there's a term. I forget it right now. But anyway, sorry. Okay, Steve says that he has something really great
No,
for the end of the show. So I have to give him enough time.
well, not that much time, but anyway, no, the
Oh
standard amount
God,
of
I see
time.
he's pulling out vinyl records and some kind of thing that looks like plays them.
Okay,
No.
but what I want to ask before we sort of wrap things
And
up,
he's got
Steve.
this strange sweatshirt that's got like a Churchill stamp on it, I
Well,
think.
somebody's got to give him some love right now because he's getting
Okay.
slammed from so many
Yeah, it's
sides on the
true.
right. It's annoying me. So,
I
yeah.
can't wait till it gets
The
cold enough
evil
here for
people
me
on
to
our
wear
side.
my new sweatshirt. You guys are
Yeah.
going to love
Oh,
it,
what
but
is
I'm
Yeah.
it?
not telling you. But anyway,
Okay.
I have one question for both of you. How are you holding up? Are you guys okay? Are you starving? I mean,
What?
is the shutdown are you just feeling so oppressed by the government shutdown you can't get up in the morning?
Well, I think, haven't I said this before? All the government in California is still functioning, unfortunately. The police are still
Hmm.
patrolling. The public schools are still open. The post office is delivering the mail. What government shutdown? Anyway.
Actually, I want to give my example, which is poor John Fetterman went
Ah.
to go use some hand sanitizer in the dispenser on the wall, and it's empty.
Oh,
And he says,
dear.
government never works.
Who uses that stuff anymore?
I
I
know,
know.
right?
I don't know. Maybe if you shake a lot of hands of people from Pennsylvania, John, you decide that you absolutely have to use hand sanitizer afterwards.
Well, because it could have a lot of cheese whiz and beef grease on it. That's true. That's true. I admit that. But that wouldn't make me
Uh,
wash my hand. It would just make me hungry. But
okay.
I actually, I lived under one of the lockdowns. I mean, I was in the government during one of the lockdowns, and I think, like I said before, I think they just let it go on a little longer, and people aren't going to miss the federal government that much anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And it
Yeah,
definitely gives Trump even more leverage than he already has now because he's the one who doesn't want to spend money.
Well,
yeah.
and I can't figure out exactly how it's all working with the permanent layoffs.
Yeah, I'm
Steve
not sure
mentioned
about that.
beforehand
Well, it's
that
early yet,
maybe
so
Voight was going to be doing some this weekend because the Senate just said, screw
Yeah,
it,
I mean,
we're going
look,
home.
the theory is, the money has run out for these positions. And so if, you could say we don't know if Congress is going to create those positions again in the next set of legislation with the new funding. So why not just terminate them until Congress, right, passes a law that says these are all the positions that are created and funded? I mean, it has a kind of I think it's constitutional to say Congress stopped funding the government. All these people are not working anymore, so we're going to just eliminate their jobs. Congress can now pass a new law and says the jobs are recreated. But until they do that, how can we keep the offices open? I could see Jefferson doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Even though you don't like him.
No, I hate Jefferson, but I could see Jefferson doing this.
All
Hamilton,
right.
I don't know if Hamilton would have, but Jefferson definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you just a few. I want time for Steve's latest.
It's very short. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Looked
Go
long
ahead.
to me. Okay. All right.
No.
Babylon B. Trump retaliates for Peace Prize snub with picture of the Nobel Committee in sombreros. Tell me that wasn't the.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. That was so great.
I
And
missed
the
it.
worst thing about it is
You
that
mean-
the left has no sense of humor.
You mean,
You know?
oh, right. Yes. Oh, I thought you were
The-
talking about the woman who did get the Nobel Prize, giving full credit to Trump for getting it, which
Right.
is got
the
it right.
Venezuelan woman.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, because I think that the Nobel Committee probably thought that they were really tweaking Trump
Yep,
by
yep, I
choosing
think
the
so too.
Venezuelan,
Right.
and instead it really backfired on him.
Yeah.
But anyway, federal court overturns Israel-Hamas peace deal.
Right. Of course.
Not even funny.
Well, Judge Mosberg orders Hamas and Israel to keep fighting. Right. That was the other
Yes.
one. They
Yeah.
did, right.
James Comey produces letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials saying he's totally innocent.
That was
That's pretty
good. Right? Yeah.
And then this is we didn't talk about it, but Steve was right. We don't have that much to say right now till we figure out how it all happens. But it's a picture of Trump, but the caption underneath it is Hitler brings peace to Israel.
Right. Exactly.
John?
That's true. Okay. Always drink your whiskey neat, buy more books. And Steve, what AI travesty do you have for us today where they're throwing even more people out of work?
Oh, I have so much fun. I asked ChatGPT to give us a parody of a John Yoo op-ed. And it gave me, I got several versions. I'm just going to give you a couple of very short excerpts. It gave me, the Constitution empowers the president to control the weather. By Professor John Yoo, the Immanuel Kant Distinguished Professor of Original Intent at the University of California, Berkeley. And another one is
this doesn't sound like a parody yet.
Yeah, right. And Senior Fellow at the Center for Atmospheric Originalism. All right, just a couple of I've got 5 pages, but I'm going to give you just 3 short paragraphs, which work pretty well. Cut 1. James Madison did not spend a humid Philadelphia summer crafting a weak, meteorologically impotent executive. He and his colleagues intended a president capable of acting with decision, activity, secrecy, and dispatch, qualities indispensable to weather modification. Federalist number 70. See also the Weather Channel versus Reality 2025. So that was the case citation. The other one is, let's see.
Context,
pretty
by the
good,
way,
actually.
the context is John arguing that the president has complete and total authority under both Commander-in-Chief Article 2 to stop hurricanes, to command the weather. So that kind of helps, Steve.
Okay, so cut 2 of 3. Courts, of course, should refrain from second-guessing presidential weather decisions. The judiciary lacks institutional competence in atmospheric science, as shown in Marbury versus Monsoon, US 1, Cranch 137. Judicial review of Judicial review of cumulus formation would risk transforming the Supreme Court into a kind of judicial Doppler radar, undermining the separation of barometers. And finally, the conclusion.
Pretty good.
As Hamilton wisely noted in Federalist 70, energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is time we recognize that this energy includes, literally, energy, thermodynamics, barometric pressure, and when necessary, tactical cloud seeding. In short, a timid president may surrender to the whims of nature. A strong one commands the storm. I think that's
I
pretty
love
good.
that. That's a great last line. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, the problem is these things are getting almost good enough to put us out of work, right?
I know, this is great. I mean, I'm going to start using this thing to write my op-eds. Wow.
All
All
right.
right, you guys
I
have a
love it.
wonderful week. Happy Columbus Day. There was a great
Yeah.
article, I think, in the Spectator today about
Oh, yeah.
how we ought to stop shying away from celebrating everything great about Columbus.
Yeah.
I won't even use the term family show, but he had very big cojones to be able to do what he did across
Yeah.
the great Atlantic Ocean 500 years ago.
Have you seen the
Right.
size of the ships that he sailed in? Oh my God. I mean,
Tiny. They're tiny.
yeah, right.
Tiny,
Okay.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
you guys. We had like 15 people watching live, which isn't bad for this late in the evening. And thank you, listeners. And we
And not
will.
everyone is a night owl
Five
like
of them were
John.
Lucretia's dogs.
Right. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you soon. And.